went to lose a jolly...
Who knew that Hollywood's golden age was hiding such ugly racist pasts? Think those glamorous stars were all about charm and equality? Think again, because some of the most beloved icons were nothing like what fans imagined. Number 20. Jolson. Jolson, once hailed as the world's greatest entertainer. He was the star of The Jazz Singer in 1927, the first talking picture, and the man who helped launch Hollywood into a new era. Fans adored his powerful voice, his stage charisma, and his larger-than-life personality. But behind the applause was a darker truth. Jolson was infamous for performing in blackface, a practice that reduced African Americans to racist caricatures while making him a star. His exaggerated performances played into harmful stereotypes that Hollywood would recycle for decades. Even though some biographers tried to paint him as a friend of black performers, the reality is that his career leaned heavily on racist imagery that can't be ignored. Jolson's legacy remains a painful contradiction. A man who revolutionized entertainment while reinforcing some of the ugliest traditions in show business. Number 19. Walter Brennan. Walter Brennan was one of Hollywood's most decorated actors, winning 3 Academy Awards and charming audiences with his grandfatherly roles in films and television. On screen, he looked like the kind of man you'd want as your neighbor, warm, folksy, and harmless. But off-screen, Brennan's reputation was anything but gentle. He was notorious for his extreme political views, openly supporting segregation and spreading racist opinions. Reports even claim that he celebrated the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., revealing just how deep his prejudices ran. For many fans, this shattered the wholesome image they thought they knew. Brennan's legacy may shine in Hollywood's record books, but it's forever stained by the bigotry he carried behind the scenes. Number 18. John Wayne. John Wayne stood as the face of American masculinity. From his role in Stagecoach to his Oscar-winning turn in True Grit, the Duke became Hollywood's ultimate cowboy hero. Strong, stoic, and larger than life. But his real-life views told a very different story. In a 1971 Playboy interview, Wayne openly praised white supremacy, dismissed Native Americans as selfish, and claimed black people were not ready for true equality. The shocking part, he never took those words back. At the 1973 Oscars, when activist Sachin Littlefeather appeared to protest Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans, Wayne reportedly had to be physically restrained backstage from attacking her. The public may still remember him as an American legend, but Wayne's racist comments and actions left a stain on the image of Hollywood's cowboy hero. Number 17. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, famously called the King of Hollywood, defined Golden Age stardom with unforgettable performances in classics like Gone with the Wind and It Happened One Night. His charm, rugged good looks, and screen presence made him one of the most admired leading men of his era. But off-camera, Gable's reputation wasn't as flawless. Behind the charm, he was known to use racist slurs casually on set, and while he enjoyed popularity among black audiences, he didn't stand against the racial stereotypes that filled many of his films. Even his most famous movie, Gone with the Wind, romanticized the antebellum South and reinforced racist depictions that Hollywood would struggle with for decades. Fans adored him as a timeless star, but Gable's reluctance to challenge racism and his own prejudiced remarks exposed a darker side to the King of Hollywood. Number 16. Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby was one of the most beloved entertainers of the 20th century. With his smooth voice and timeless holiday hit White Christmas, he became a household name and a symbol of warmth and nostalgia. On screen, he was charming, gentle, and seemingly wholesome. But away from the spotlight, Crosby's record wasn't so clean. He performed in blackface multiple times, especially during the height of minstrel-influenced entertainment, and was known to use racist language casually in private. Even in later films, traces of these racist tropes showed up in musical numbers that reflected Hollywood's blind acceptance of stereotypes. Audiences still remember Crosby as the voice of Christmas, but his casual racism and performances that mocked African Americans revealed an uglier truth beneath his polished image. Number 15. James Stewart. James Stewart was the ultimate good guy of Hollywood. With classics like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, he built a reputation as America's most wholesome leading man. On screen, he represented honesty, decency, and small-town values. But behind that clean image was a troubling reality. Stewart's treatment of black actors during his career revealed deeply prejudiced views. In the early 1970s, he reportedly demanded that a black actor be removed from his television sitcom. And during the filming of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, colleagues recalled him using racial slurs casually. Even his lifelong friendship with fellow actor Henry Fonda nearly collapsed due to their political differences, with tensions boiling over into a physical fight. Fans who saw him as the symbol of goodness were stunned to learn that Stewart's off-screen behavior didn't always match the virtues he portrayed on screen. Number 14. Henry Ford. Henry Ford isn't a movie star, but his influence reached deep into Hollywood's golden age. The automaker who revolutionized American industry with the Model T and the assembly line was admired by powerful studio heads and wealthy stars. He was celebrated as a visionary, a man who gave the modern world its wheels. But Ford's personal views were far from visionary. Through his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, he published a series of anti-Semitic writings titled The International Jew. These pieces spread hateful conspiracy theories that became so notorious they were praised by Adolf Hitler himself. Ford's factories also maintained strict racial separation, and his Americanization programs forced immigrant workers to abandon their cultural identities. While Hollywood admired his success, Ford's bigotry left a dark shadow that no amount of industrial achievement could erase. Number 13. Walt Disney. Walt Disney was the man who brought the world Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and the magic of family entertainment. Generations of children grew up with his cartoons, and his empire became one of the most powerful forces in Hollywood. To many, he seemed like the ultimate symbol of creativity and imagination. But Disney's world wasn't as innocent as it looked. He faced accusations of anti-Semitism and racism throughout his career. In 1938, Disney personally welcomed Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl to his studio, just weeks after the Kristallnacht attacks in Germany. His company also circulated an infamous rejection letter refusing to consider women for creative roles. On screen, films like Song of the South and even Dumbo carried racist stereotypes that reinforced harmful ideas for decades. While Disney's empire continues to shine, his willingness to embrace discriminatory practices has kept controversy surrounding his name alive long after his death. Number 12. Frederick March. Frederick March was one of the most respected actors of Hollywood's golden age. A two-time Academy Award winner for films like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and The Best Years of Our Lives, he was celebrated as one of the finest performers of his generation. His name stood for prestige and talent, both on stage and on screen. But decades after his death, March's reputation took a major hit. Investigations uncovered that as a student at the University of Wisconsin, he was linked to a campus group with ties to the Ku Klux Klan. Although some defenders argued it was a different kind of organization, the connection was enough to spark outrage. His name was later stripped from a university theater in 2018, showing how damaging the revelations remained even years later. March's story proves how even celebrated Hollywood icons could carry dark associations that don't fade with time. Number 11. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was one of Hollywood's brightest stars, known for her Oscar-winning role in Mildred Pierce and her fierce screen presence. She embodied glamour, power, and resilience, becoming a symbol of golden age stardom. To the public, she was the very definition of elegance. But behind the beauty and talent was a darker side. Accounts from people who worked with Crawford reveal she often used racist insults when speaking to or about black domestic workers. In Hollywood's elite circles, she was known for keeping up appearances, but her private remarks painted a much uglier picture. Fans admired her as a strong woman who conquered Hollywood, but those who saw her off-camera knew that Crawford's legacy wasn't free from prejudice. Number 10. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn is remembered as one of the greatest actresses in film history. With 4 Academy Awards and iconic roles in The Philadelphia Story and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, she became a symbol of independence and sophistication in Hollywood. To her fans, she was fearless, intelligent, and ahead of her time. But her legacy isn't without controversy. Hepburn's father, Dr. Thomas Hepburn, held racist views that influenced her early upbringing, and in her career, she often remained silent about Hollywood's discriminatory practices. While she thrived in roles that challenged gender norms, she accepted parts in films that reinforced racial stereotypes. For many critics, her refusal to speak out during the height of the civil rights movement revealed a troubling contradiction in her carefully crafted image. Hepburn may be celebrated as a trailblazer for women, but her silence on race left a stain on her golden age reputation. Number 9. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy was one of MGM's biggest stars, admired for his powerful performances in films like Captain's Courageous and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. On screen, he projected honesty and strength, becoming one of Hollywood's most respected leading men. But Tracy's personal life told a different story. Earlier in his career, he was known for making racist remarks and showing discomfort about working alongside black performers, even though he later starred in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, a film that challenged racist attitudes. Colleagues recalled that his private views didn't always align with the progressive message he portrayed on screen. Tracy may have ended his career playing a role that symbolized tolerance, but the contradictions in his real-life attitudes reveal a darker side to his legacy. Number 8. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was one of Hollywood's most enduring stars, rising from child actor to golden age icon, with roles in classics like the Andy Hardy series and National Velvet. Audiences adored his energy, charm, and versatility, and he became one of the highest-paid actors of his time. But his career also carried one of Hollywood's most infamous racist portrayals. In the 1961 film Breakfast at Tiffany's, Rooney played Mr. Yuniyoshi, a Japanese landlord, in exaggerated makeup and with a caricatured accent. The performance was so offensive that it has since been called one of the most racist roles in film history. Despite later apologies, the damage to his reputation was permanent, and the role remains a painful reminder of how casually Hollywood once embraced racist stereotypes. Rooney's legacy as a versatile entertainer is undeniable, but the memory of that role left a lasting stain on his career. Number 7. Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple was America's sweetheart of the 1930s. With her curls, dimples, and charming songs, she brought joy to audiences during the Great Depression and became one of the most famous child stars in Hollywood history. But many of her films carried troubling racial imagery that reflected the prejudices of the time. Temple often appeared in scenes set on plantations, and her partnership with Bill Bojangles Robinson, while historic as one of the first interracial dancing duos on screen, still reinforced stereotypes of black actors in servant roles. Though Temple herself was only a child, the way her films used racist tropes became part of Hollywood's larger problem of normalizing discrimination. Temple's image remains innocent and beloved, but the roles she was placed in revealed how even the youngest stars were tied to the racism embedded in Golden Age Hollywood. Number 6. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is remembered as one of cinema's greatest pioneers. With his iconic character, the Tramp, he defined the silent film era and left behind classics like City Lights and Modern Times. To audiences around the world, he was a genius who used comedy to highlight social issues. But even Chaplin's work wasn't free from racist undertones. Some of his early performances leaned on offensive caricatures, and critics have pointed out anti-Semitic and racist tropes hidden in his comedy. While Chaplin later became known for his political outspokenness, especially against fascism, his private remarks and the racial stereotypes in parts of his films reveal that he too was shaped by the prejudices of his time. Chaplin may be remembered as a cinematic visionary, but his career also reflects how even the most celebrated artists were not immune to Hollywood's darker biases. Number 5. Judy Garland. Judy Garland was one of MGM's brightest stars, adored for her unforgettable role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. With her powerful voice and emotional performances, she became one of the most beloved entertainers of the Golden Age. But Garland's early career exposed her to some of Hollywood's ugliest practices. As a teenager under MGM's control, She was forced to perform in blackface for musical numbers and participate in scenes that reinforced racist stereotypes. Even later in her career, Garland appeared in films that carried racially insensitive portrayals, showing how normalized these depictions were in the industry. Fans remember Garland as a tragic talent whose voice defined a generation, but her involvement in roles shaped by Hollywood's racism remains a troubling part of her legacy. Number 4. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart became the ultimate tough guy of classic Hollywood. With legendary roles in Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, he embodied grit, coolness, and timeless style. To millions of fans, he was the face of old-school Hollywood masculinity. But Bogart's off-screen reputation wasn't as clean as his on-screen heroics. Accounts from people who knew him describe him using racially charged language and making remarks that revealed prejudice. Despite working in films that sometimes touched on issues of justice and morality, Bogart himself was reluctant to break away from the casual racism that dominated Hollywood's culture in his time. Bogart may still be admired as a Golden Age legend, but the darker stories about his private behavior remind us that even Hollywood's biggest icons carried flaws that don't fade with nostalgia. Number 3. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor's early career unfolded in an era when Hollywood thrived on racist depictions, and she was often placed in roles that reflected those prejudices. Her films carried offensive portrayals of minorities, and critics have pointed out how she benefited from a system built on exclusion. Added to this was her family's own history, which tied her to the privileged circles of old Hollywood where racist attitudes were normalized. Though she later became known for her activism in other areas, Taylor's early career remains a reminder of how even the brightest stars were shaped by the discriminatory culture of Golden Age Hollywood. Number 2. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was hailed as one of the greatest actors of all time, with groundbreaking performances in A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. He redefined acting in Hollywood and set a new standard for raw emotional power on screen. But Brando's early years showed contradictions that many fans overlook. While he later made headlines for supporting Native American rights, famously sending Sachin Littlefeather to refuse his Oscar in protest of Hollywood's racism, earlier in his career, he tolerated the stereotypes built into the roles he accepted. Behind the scenes, Brando was also reported to have used racist language in private conversations, exposing a side of him that clashed with the progressive image he embraced later on. Brando may be remembered as a rebel who challenged Hollywood's system, but the truth is far more complicated. His early complicity and private remarks show how even Hollywood's most celebrated actor wasn't free from prejudice. Number 1. Hattie McDaniel. Hattie McDaniel made history in 1940 when she became the first African American to win an Academy Award for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. On stage that night, she broke barriers and stood as proof that black talent could not be ignored in Hollywood. But behind the applause was a much darker reality. McDaniel was forced into playing stereotypical servant roles, and many of her white peers treated her with open racism. At the very Oscar ceremony where she made history, she was seated at a segregated table at the back of the room. White Golden Age stars who worked with her often belittled her, and Hollywood kept her boxed into roles that reinforced racist stereotypes rather than allowing her to expand her career. McDaniel's story is both inspiring and tragic. She shattered barriers, but the racism of her colleagues and the industry itself revealed just how deep prejudice ran in Hollywood's Golden Age. And that's a wrap on our list of Golden Age stars with shocking racist pasts. Which one surprised you the most? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss our next video, uncovering Hollywood's hidden side.